So hello everyone. Our lesson for this week in our distribution and purchasing subject is the 8 components of supply chain management. So last week we discussed about supply chain management, what are their concept, what is supply chain management, and what is the importance of supply chain management in every businesses. So for now, we are going to talk what are the 8 components of supply chain management. So what do we mean by components? These are things that will make or that are parts of the importance of having the supply chain management. Ano ba yung mga factors, ano ba yung mga components, ano ba yung mga parts na kailangan in order to make supply chain management effective. So yan yung pag-uusapan natin for this week. So as a start, simple bread and butter with which we eat each day actually gets to us through several processes. So in this instance, bread begins its journey with a farmer who sows the seeds and sells the wheat to the businessman, who in turn sells it to the baker who bakes the bread. So this is a description of supply chain management in a nutshell. In other words, supply chain management is a network of those businesses that are interconnected with each other in either the manufacturing of products or delivering services that are required by the consumers. So last week we have talked about supply chain management. So again, as a review, supply chain management is the overall process from the purchasing of the raw materials until to the delivery of the finished products to the final consumers. So that is the supply chain management. Halin sa pagbakal ta sa mga raw materials hasta sa pagdulong ta sa mga finished products ta sa aton yung mga customers. So in the example given here, ang ginhambal is about the bread and butter. So simple, the bread, ang supply chain management sa tinapay is halin siya dito sa pagtanong pa mismo sa wheat. Kundi ginahimo ang flour, tapos ginbaligya siya dito. Ang tanong sa farmer, ang produce sa farmer, ginbaligya niya sa negosyante, ang negosyante ginbaligya niya man sa baker. And then tong baker siya ang naghimo na sa tinapay, gin-display niya or ginbaligya niya naman into retail hasta ginbakal siya ni consumer, hasta ginkaon siya ni final consumer. So that's the overall process of the supply chain management. So that is the simplest description or illustration of supply chain management. So it is very important for businesses to ensure 2 things for their supply chain management to be effective. One is the supply chain should be cost effective, and second, it should deliver the results on time. So again, remember that cost effective and on time. So kailangan mura yung product, the cheaper the raw material. When we say cheaper, we don't disregard the quality. We just mean out of all the quality raw materials, ano tong pinakamura? Okay? So that's what we mean by cost effective. And syempre, we need it on time because if one aspect, we will discuss this further later on, if one aspect of the supply chain management is delayed, then everything everything that follows it will also be delayed. So masisira ang ating time plan. So we began with this description of supply chain management of bread. It is a very simple one. There are many complicated supply chain management processes that differ with the size of the business as well as the complexity of the chain and the number of products involved at each step. So yung example natin yung tinapay, it is just the simplest or the easiest to show kung ano itong supply chain, ang flows ng supply chain. So of course, kung mas dako ang company, mas damos ang processes na kailangan. So syempre, mas nagiging complex at complicated ang kanilang supply chain flow. So, thus, supply chain management begins at the origin of the product. So, yun, like what we have said, nag-uumpisa siya sa pag-umpisa ni product. Hindi siya sa pagbakal, sang paghimo, kundi sa paghalin or pagbakal sang raw materials. And ends at the delivery and consumption of the same by the end user. There are a million things which we use or consume in our everyday lives, and supply chain management weaves through it all, creating a harmonious and efficient environment. Any break in this chain can actually result in disruption of the system with a domino-like effect. Supply chain management is made up of a few components that are very important as well as critical to the system. We shall discuss each of the components in a brief while. So again, sabi ko nga kanina, if one part of the supply chain management was disrupted or na-delay yung production or kung na-delay yung pag-produce or pag-acquire ng raw materials or kung may mga abnormalities in the process like for example, biglang nasira yung mga machines, then yung mga sunod na steps na yun will be affected. What do we mean by domino-like effect? For example, isa lang ang natandog, di ba? Kung sa domino, kung magutang ka mo sa mga domino, pasunod, may matandog ka ng isa, matumba na sa tanan. So that's what we mean by domino-like effect. So we have the first component that we are going to talk about is actually yung ating planning process. So what do we mean by planning process? This is one of the most important stages. Before the beginning of the entire supply chain, it is essential to finalize the strategies and put them into place. Checking the demand for the product or service, checking the viability, costing, profit, and manpower, etc. are vital. So without a proper plan or strategy in place, it will be impossible for the business to achieve effective and long-term benefits. Therefore, enough time has to be devoted to this phase. Only after the finalization of the plans and consideration of all pros and cons can one proceed further. Every business needs a plan or blueprint or a roadmap based on which the strategies are made. Planning helps to identify the demand and supply trends in the market, and this in turn helps to create a successful supply chain management system. As we all know, in business, especially in our study in the business courses, we have a lot of plans na ginahimo. Okay? We have the business plan, the financial plan, the strategic plan, the feasibility study. So there are a lot of plans or a lot of studies to be conducted first in order for us to have a successful flow or operations of a business. So kahit na anong sector, kahit na anong department, planning is the first phase. And since it is the first phase, it is the most important because it will guide the entire system or it will guide the entire steps or the entire process of what will be done, what should be done, and what is the expected output of each process or steps. So planning is very important. Maski di ka man magkadto or maski ano man ang himuon, plano gid ang pinaka-importante. Okay? Next one is the information. The world today is dominated by a continuous flow of information. In order to be successful, it is essential that a business stays abreast with all the latest information about the various aspects of its production. The market trends of supply and demand for a particular product can be best understood if the information is properly and timely disseminated through the many levels of the business. Information is crucial in a knowledge-based world economy, and ignorance about any aspect of business may actually spell doom for the prospects of the business. So again, we know that information nowadays is very easy. Maski hindi na budlay magkuha sa information, especially in the presence of internet. So again, there are a lot of ways to get information, and the easiest way is actually yung kay Google. Search mo lang sa kay Google, lalabas na maraming information. What we need now actually is the critical mind or the analytical mind in order for us to determine if that information is correct or that information is false. So we need to weigh in now information. Wala na ta sa panahon nga kung diin nangangapa pa ta magkuha sa information. We are now on an era where what we need to do is not to pabudlayan ang self ta sa pagpangita sa information, but most especially it is now on a process or a time where we need to determine the factualness or the veracity or the truthfulness of each information. So another thing to talk about information that because it should be timely. Okay? In accounting, merong isang factor doon sa accounting that accounting information should be time-bounded. Why time-bounded? Because if that information is not essential already for the time being, then useless na ang information mo. For example, you need the accounting records for the year 2015. Kailangan mo siya within this month in order for you to decide on the next budget or on how are we going to budget the funds of the corporation. Pero kung ang information na to will be given after a year pa, then useless na itong information na to for next year because we need the information today. So again, with regards to information, it is now our time or it is now the time that we can dissect or we can analyze whether that information is true or false, and that information should be on a timely basis. Okay? Next is source. Suppliers play a very crucial role in supply chain management systems. Products and services sold to the end user are created with the help of different sets of raw materials. It is therefore necessary that suitable quality raw materials are procured at cost-effective rates. If a supplier is unable to supply on time and within the stipulated budget, the business is bound to suffer losses and gain a negative reputation. It is crucial that a company procures good quality resources so it can create good quality products and maintain its reputation in the market. This necessitates a strong role for suppliers in the supply chain management system. Okay? So one component is the source or simply the suppliers of our raw materials. So why are they very important? Obviously, they are very important because we need the raw materials in order for us to make our products or to conduct our services. Kung wala yung raw materials from our suppliers, then what finished products can we produce? What services can we do? Diba? For example, doon sa example natin kanina, which is the bakery. Ano ang himuon ni baker or ano ang himuon sa bakery kung wala siya sa mga harina, kung wala siya sa equipment nga gin-promise siya i-deliver on time? Of course, wala siya sa may mahimo. So magiging stagnant yung time niya, magiging useless yon. Whereas we can we know that each time is valuable in business. So for example, kahit na isang araw lang ma-disrupt ang production, there is a big loss already for the company or the corporation. For example, in one day, the company can produce 1,000 units of products. Paano kung na-delay itong supplies, paano kung na-delay itong pag-deliver sang raw materials, tapos ma-delay for let's say 3 days lang. Di ba kung isip mo na 3 days dali lang na siya. Pero for the corporation or for the company, that means 3,000 units ang wala na produce sang company. That is why there are a lot now of manufacturing companies that apply different approaches. We have the just-in-time na ginumpisan sa Japan. There are a lot of ways in order for them to determine kung hanggang kailan ba needed yung product. So for example, there is a practice na for example, meron silang buffer stock system. What do you mean by buffer? Ito yung mga sobra na. Ito yung mga, pag naabot yung buffer system, they need already to order their raw materials, order raw materials needed. Because for example, the buffer stock can be processed for 5 days. So you have 5 days worth of buffer stock. So yung tendency doon is o-order na si company ng stocks or raw materials from their suppliers kapag naabot na sa buffer level, buffer stock level. Because of course, ang tendency is yung ibang raw materials or yung ibang suppliers natin is coming from different cities or municipalities or even regions. So, i-deliver pa yan siya. Meron tayong travel time or yung freight time na tinatawag. So, yung freight can be determined by the number of days halin sa warehouse ni supplier hasta sa aton nga warehouse for the production. So, we need to determine that one so that we cannot have a wastage of time and day, and of course the personnel. Another one is the inventory. So this is similar now to the source or yung supplier natin. So for a highly effective supply chain management system, it is essential that an inventory is kept and thoroughly maintained. An inventory means the ready list of items, raw materials, and other essentials required for the product or service. This list has to be regularly updated to demarcate available stock and required stock. Inventory management is critical to the function of supply chain management because without proper inventory management, the production as well as sale of the product is not possible. Businesses have now started to pay more attention to this component simply because of its impact on the supply chain. So like what I have said kanina, the level of inventory available or yung dito ginamit natin is more of the, anong tawag doon? Required stock and the available stock. So the company need to compare magkano yung required stock nila for production at magkano yung available stock nila na available doon sa kanilang warehouse. So a lot of companies nowadays are very particular with their inventory system in order for them to have a proper flow of production and the proper process of production. Para hindi ma-disrupt si production natin, hindi ma-disrupt yung potential sales natin just because lang na wala tayong inventories available. Okay? Di ba? Similar na siya. In simple sense lang, for example, kinahanglan isang customer mo, damo ka bakal sang for example, toyo, di ba? Damo ka bakal, example may sari-sari store ka, tapos damo sang kapitbahay mo or sa mga customers mo nagabakal sa imo sang toyo. So you need to determine sa isa ka semana pila ka toyo ang kaya mo ibaligya so that you can purchase that amount or quantity of soy sauce or toyo para may available ka nga ibaligya sa imong customers. Because kung wala ka permis ang products na ginapangita ni customer, the tendency is number one, sayang tong income mo sa iya. And number two, there is a big possibility na hindi na babalik si customer sa imo because every time na magkadto siya sa imo nga tindahan, permi ka lang wala. Diba? For example, may mabakal ka sang toyo, wala siya toyo. Mabakal ka sang langgaw, wala siya sang langgaw. Mabakal ka sang asin, wala siya sang asin. So may tendency ka na subong hindi ka na magbakal sa iya. Kay permi na lang wala sa iya. So that's the simple explanation of the inventory, of how important inventory is in every businesses. Number 5 is the production. Production is one among the most important aspects of this system. It is only possible when all the other components of the supply chain are in tandem with each other. For the process of production to start, it is essential that proper planning and supply of goods as well as the inventory are well maintained. The production of goods is followed by testing, packaging, and other final preparation for delivery of the finished product. So again, simply the production will be affected by the pre-process. For example, yung supplies, the inventory, the plan, anong plan, how many products, pila ang machines, pila ang ma-produce per day, ang expected outputs, pila ang manpower. So all of this will affect production. And in the production process, the most important to be applied during the supply chain management is to determine the quality of the product. When you are being assured that the quality of the products, that products that you have produced is of quality, then you can already disperse it and send it to your suppliers, distributors, and customers. So after the production, nandito na again, yung testing, packaging, and final preparation for the delivery already. So another one of the component of supply chain management is the location. Any business that wants to survive as well as flourish needs a location which is profitable for the business. Take, for example, a carbonated drink factory is set up in an area where water supply is scarce. Water is a basic necessity of such business. The lack of water could hamper the production as well as affect the goodwill of the company. A business cannot survive if it has to share an already scarce raw material with the community. Hence, a suitable location which is well connected and very close to the source of essential resources for production is vital to a business prosperity. The requirement and availability of manpower must also be considered while setting up a business unit. So, of course, in your previous subjects, paulit-ulit na siya sinasabi that location is very important in business. Location is very important in marketing. Location is very important in the production process as well. Because we need to put the business in an area na marami yung raw materials. Why? Number one, the travel time of the raw materials. Mas madali kang makakakuha ng raw materials nandyan lang sa community. Mas mura kasi hindi na siya ita-travel. Diba? That's one of the factors. Number three, you will be helping the community na magkaka-income din sila because pinapurchase mo yung product nila. Okay, so you will be creating a harmonious relationship, a good rapport with the community, which is very important in each business because we need the social approval of people in order for us to be patronized by the community and by our customers. And we have the transportation. Transportation is vital in terms of carrying raw materials to the manufacturing unit and delivering the final product to the market. At each stage, timely transportation of goods is mandatory to sustain a smooth business process. Any business which pays attention to this component and takes good care of it will benefit from the production and transportation of its goods on time. It is essential that a company works towards a safe and secure transportation process. Be it in-house or a third-party vendor, the transportation management system must ensure zero damage and minimal loss in transit. A well-managed logistics system along with flawless invoicing are the two pillars of secure transportation. So here we are going to talk about the transportation of our products to the customers and as well as the transportation of the raw materials that we ordered going to us. So there should be a timely plan. There should be an efficient determination of time kung ilang days or ilang hours yung travel from the supplier to us and ilang hours or ilang days yung ating pag-travel ng ating products from our warehouse or our production houses into the retail stores or into the customers. So transportation is very important. And of course, when we say transportation, it should be of a proper handling of our products. Especially if our products are fragile, so madali siyang masira, madali siyang kung sa Ilonggo pa, dali siya mabuka. So kailangan our production teams or our transportation teams or yung mga delivery teams natin or even yung mga third parties na gina outsource natin should be very careful with our products na hindi siya masisira doon sa pagbiyahe niya, di ba? There are a lot of issues nowadays, especially yung sa uso na ngayon, di ba, yung mga sa Shopee at saka sa Lazada. So it is expected ng store or ng store, di ba, store yung tawag sa nagabaligyan sa Lazada at saka sa Shopee. So expected nila that the delivery team, for example, yung JNT, Entrego, To Go, and JRS, LBC will take good care of their products from their supplier or pag-deliver nila until makaabot siya sa customer in order to prevent spoiled goods or yung pagkasira ng product because of the delivery or yung mga tendencies also na nawawala yung product or mali yung pag-deliver ng product. Imbes nga, ang in-order ko is product A, ang na-deliver sa akin is product B. So that's the disasters that is possible if the transportation aspect of supply chain management is not well planned. Okay? And it will also reduce yung ating susunod na pag-uusapan, which is the return of goods. So what do we mean by return of goods? Among the various components that create a strong supply chain is the facility for the return of faulty or malfunctioning goods, along with a highly responsive consumer grievance redress unit. No one is infallible. Even a machine may malfunction once in a million times, if not more. As a part of a strong business process, one may expect the return of goods under various circumstances. Even the best quality control processes may have unavoidable momentary lapses. In the case of such lapses, inevitably followed by consumer complaints, a business must instinctively recall the product or products and issue an apology. This not only creates a good customer bonding but also maintains goodwill in the long run. So of course, sabi nga natin, no one is perfect. Not even the best corporations is perfect. So there is a big tendency that there is a malfunction or a return or the presence of faulty goods or defective goods. So sinasabi dito sa number 8, in the supply chain management component is that the company should be prepared when and should be responsive and should have a timely response when customers will return the goods, especially if it is defective goods. And not only because hindi lang siya gusto ni customer. So there should be a customer response or maybe the responsive of the seller to the customer when the customer wants to return the purchased goods. Why? Because it will create a good rapport to the customer, di ba? Parang pinapahalagaan natin yung pinapahalagaan natin sa customer because we address their complaints, we address their issues, and of course we will have a goodwill in the long run. I would just like to share yung parang sa isang instance na nabasa ko wherein sa Japan daw, 'di ba? Sa Japan, the train is the most common form of transportation, of mass transportation. So yung train talaga nila is very particular with the time. So pag sinabing ganitong oras darating ang train sa train station, yan talaga yung oras na darating yung tren sa train station. And kung ganito yung oras ng departure at saka ganito yung oras ng arrival, talagang ganun yan siya. Now, there is an instance daw sa Japan whereas kung malate daw yung train ng 5 minutes, kahit na 5 minutes lang, so syempre kung late yung darating yung train, late rin yun siya darating sa station nila, 'di ba? From one station to the other station. So kung na-late si train sa station A 5 minutes, there is a big tendency also that the train will also be late in arriving to station B. So ang mangyayari daw niyan, lalabas daw yung captain ng train, yung captain ng tren, tapos mag-i-issue siya ng parang certificate or a little piece of paper indicating that the train arrived late. In order for it na yung mga sumasakay doon na empleyado will give it to their company and be so that parang excuse yung parang may valuable reason why na late si empleyado. So just imagine the level of integrity of the trains in Japan, di ba? Kung maliit lang sila, maskin 5 minutes lang, talagang mag-i-issue sila ng apology and magbibigay sila ng parang apology letter to the customer. So that's the ideal integrity and the being responsive of companies. That's the ideal sana. So the 8 components discussed here are interdependent and ensure a smooth supply chain management system. It ensures the success and reputation of a business. A business must focus on all these components in order to create a flawless supply chain. So as what we have said kanina, each of these factors or each of these components is very vital to one another. Hindi magiging successful si production kung walang proper planning. Hindi magiging successful ang transportation kung walang available na inventory na i-deliver. Diba? Ganun siya. Interdependent siya with one another. Businesses that have a strong supply chain management system in place always put great emphasis on all the components listed and also ensure that management as well as the teams at various levels play by the rules. So profit is the bottom line, and to make sure that the business achieves it, it is essential that the supply chain does not have any gaps. Any snag should be dealt with immediately and the weak links repaired or removed. So again, any disruption of the supply chain management will cause a lot of losses for the company. Kahit na sa ekonomiya sa Pilipinas, di ba? Itong lockdown, natapos sa lockdown, when the lockdown was being implemented, sabi ng mga economic advisors ni President Duterte, every day nalulugi ang Pilipinas ng 2 billion pesos sa bawat lockdown, araw-araw. So kung mag-lockdown, total lockdown ang buong Pilipinas, the Philippines is lugi with 2 billion pesos. That's every day, okay, of each lockdown. So imagine pag may disruption sa operations, that will be a big loss for the company and of course of the economy. So demand and supply are two of the most important aspects of a business. For any business to be successful, trends with respect to demand and supply need to be studied carefully while implementing an effective plan of execution. A supply chain management system is required not just for the timely manufacture of goods, it is also a very critical system for ensuring that consumer requirements are met effectively. So that's how important supply chain management is. And the reference for the presentation is given below. So I hope you understand the 8 components of the supply chain management. So thank you for listening, everyone.